Okay, class, to learn Excel, I'm going to use some other tools that have already been developed so we can do this nice and neat. If you will go to learnmicrosoftexcel.com, you can click on free tutorials, and there are some really awesome tutorials down here. There's some PDFs as well as some videos. I tried to look at these with my Mac as well and struggled. So I'm going to attempt to put the video up and record it on here. But if it doesn't come out real well, if you can get to a PC and just type in the web address up there and look at it the other way, I think it would be good. So we're going to skip over here to lesson number 13. Click on the video. I've actually got it open over here, and we're going to watch it together.
To begin this lesson, I'm going to click the Excel window's Restore Down button in order to make the Excel window smaller than full screen. To do that, I click the Restore Down button at the top right hand corner of the screen. Excel can be thought of as a frame, the Excel window, containing one or more workbook windows. Most of the time, you'll work with one Excel window containing one workbook window. The way that Excel is at the moment represents the normal way of working. The workbook window is maximized within the Excel window. Notice that there are two sets of similar control buttons. The control buttons that belong to the Excel window and the control buttons that belong to the workbook window. If the workbook window's Restore Down button is clicked, the workbook window floats within the frame provided by the application window. Now you might think, what's the point of having a floating workbook window? And at this stage in your journey of discovery with Excel, there's no point at all. You need to know how to maximize, minimize, and restore down the workbook window, because you might do it by accident and need to fix things up again. Later, in lesson 2.2, you'll see how Excel is able to display more than one workbook window at the same time within the Excel window. Notice that when the workbook window is restored down, the workbook's maximize, minimize, and restore down buttons move to the top right hand corner of the floating window. Now I'm going to click the workbook's minimize button, and when I do this, the workbook minimizes to a button at the bottom left of the screen. Now I'm going to click the restore button once more, and the workbook returns to a floating window within the Excel window. And now I'm going to maximize the workbook window by clicking the workbook window's maximize button. When I click maximize, I'm back to the normal way of working, with the workbook window maximized within the Excel window. You've probably noticed that there are two close buttons on screen, one for the Excel window and one for the workbook window. You might wonder why we need two close buttons. Well, it's quite possible to close the workbook while leaving Excel open. Let's do that now by clicking the workbook's close button. And when I click the close button, Excel remains open, but now there are no workbooks at all on display. All we need to do now to complete this lesson is to close Excel itself. So I click the Excel close button at the top right hand corner, and we're done.
Okay, now we're going to move on to lesson 1-4. And watch a little bit of the video here. This goes over a lot of what we did in class today.
A book that has many pages. In Excel terminology, we use the term workbook for the book and worksheet for each of the pages. We'll be learning more about worksheets later in the course. For this lesson, we're going to open a sample file for the first time. To do that, click the Office button and then Open. And the default location for the sample files is on the C drive in the Practice folder.
You don't have those unless you have gotten it off their website, so just watch this part.
And C. Then grab the scroll bar button, drag it downwards until you see Practice, double-click Practice, double-click All Sessions, double-click Session 1, and there's only one sample file in Session 1, The Wealth of Nations. You can open it by either double-clicking on the icon, The Wealth of Nations, or by clicking it once to select it, and then click the Open button. First, I want to explain the concept of cell addresses. Excel uses the letter of the column and the number of the row to identify cells. This is called the cell address. For example, if I click in the cell with Jersey written in it, I'm in column B at row 5, so the cell address is B5. If I click in this cell, the column is D, the row is 8, so I'm in cell D8.
There's where it
in
is
Excel
right there.
2007, there are a little over 1 million rows and a little over 16,500 columns. You may wonder, how is it possible to name all of these columns with only 26 letters in the alphabet? When Excel runs out of letters, it starts using 2, X, Y, Z, and then AA, AB, AC, etc. But even 2 letters isn't enough. When Excel reaches column ZZ, it starts using 3 letters, beginning with AAA, AAB, AAC, etc. The currently selected cell is called the active cell and has a black line around it. The active cell's address is always displayed in the name box, and its contents are displayed in the formula bar. We can also use the name box to move to a specific cell. To see this in action, I'm going to type ZZ3 into the name box, and when I press the Enter key, I'm teleported to cell ZZ3. You can also see here the beginning of the 3-letter column addresses, beginning with AAA and then AAB. Now we're going to return to cell A1. The quickest way to do this is to hold down the Control key on the keyboard and then press the Home key. And that takes you back
Or
to the
Command
beginning of
if
the
you are
worksheet,
on a Mac.
which is normally cell A1. If I want to go to the end of the worksheet, I hold down the Control key on the keyboard and I press the End key. This takes me to the end of the worksheet, and you can see that in this worksheet there are 230 rows. I'm now going to press Control Home again to return to the beginning of the worksheet. Now I want to describe how the scroll bars work. There are 2 scroll bars for Excel's workbook window. The vertical scroll bar runs from the top to the bottom of the worksheet and allows you to quickly move up and down the worksheet, while the horizontal scroll bar is at the bottom right-hand side of the workbook window and allows you to move to the left and right in wide worksheets. Here's how the scroll bars work. One way of using the scroll bar is to point with your mouse button to the button on the scroll bar and then hold down the mouse button and drag to scroll through the worksheet. And now I'll do the same thing with the horizontal scroll bar. Another way of using the scroll bar is to click on the buttons at either end of the scroll bar to scroll one cell at a time. Let's see that working. I point to the button at the bottom of the vertical scroll bar, and each time I click, I move down one cell. Let's point to the button at the top and do the same thing to move back up through the worksheet. And the same thing happens when you use the buttons at the end of the horizontal scroll bar. Now let's look at another way of using the scroll bar. Sometimes you want to scroll through a long worksheet one screen at a time. By a screen, I mean everything that's visible on the screen. At the moment, I can see rows 1 to 23. If I click in the blue area, beneath the scroll bar button, every time I click, I move down one screen. Now I can see rows 24 to 46. And now I can see 47 to 69. And it works in the same way for the horizontal scroll bar. And the final scroll bar technique I'm going to show you is when you need to scroll through a worksheet very, very quickly. You'd use this when the worksheet had several hundred rows and you wanted to quickly reach a destination a very long way down the worksheet. To do this, point to the scroll bar button, hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, and as you scroll now, you scroll very, very quickly. You can see I'm up to row 1 million already. And on the horizontal scroll bar, same thing. We can go all the way to the very last column, column XFD. That's over 16,000 columns I just scrolled through in
That
less than
gives
a second.
me a headache
Let's do the
thinking
same
of
thing
that
to move
many
back. Hold down
rows
Shift,
and
point to the
columns.
bottom, click and drag, and I'm all the way back to column A. Hold the button, hold down the Shift key and drag, and I'm all the way back to cell A1. And you've now finished the 4th lesson in this course.
Okay, now I'm back on the sheet that we worked on in class today, and you can see I have done what he suggested with the minimize. Now it's big. Now I've got it where I can float it within. I can see a little bit more of my worksheet this way. Wanted to show you down here at the bottom, it by default will call it sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3 for your pages. And so if you want to retitle one, just click on it, and then right click, you can rename it and call it my income, or whatever you want to call it, or you can double click on it and my wish list. I don't know, I'm just coming up with some different things. Now if you want another page, you just have to click on this here and it will create a new one. And so by doing so, you might have some related sheets that go together. If you would like to use the same basic format that you have on this one, you can go up here to the top and highlight the whole thing and copy it. Control C, go to your new sheet, do the same thing, Control V, puts it in there. Now you can take this and you can take these categories and go up here to format, and I'm telling you wrong. I want to clear it. I'm going to right click. There we go. Alright, let's go back. We're going to take this here. I'm going to right click it, clear contents. Now I still have the boxes around it. I still have the same format. Now I can put in whatever I want. And you can do the same thing with all of this data here. Right click, clear contents. Now I still have the same month, and I can come back in and fix it the way I want. Okay, hold on. Mac users, for you to do what I just did, you're going to have to look at the top of your screen and go to Edit, and then go down to Clear, and then you can go over to Contents and click on that, and that will get rid of your contents.